So the time is finally here where I can actually get the tomatoes transplanted out on this breezy day into their final growing positions here. Now this is the old polytunnel, you remember, that I had destroyed. I'm sorry if the wind's picking up on the mic, by a storm we had a couple of years ago, and then what I did was I brought it up to this location here last year, and I grew beans in this section. I'll be honest, it wasn't successful in regards to harvest because it just kind of took over, but I let them grow in there because it was going to fix a lot of nitrogen into this soil, because I decided I was going to get these tomatoes in this space this year. Now, you could well be wondering what's going on. The reason why I'm watering this bed is because with anything that you're going to plant into, be it your greenhouse, this particular tunnel, while I'm here, I'm also going to give these plants a drink. I'll explain why in a second. So whatever you're planting into, pot, bed, whatever it is, give it a really good drink first, because when you pop your plants in, they're going to appreciate that. So I'm giving it a real good drink first. Now I'm going to be here for a while doing this because I've got quite a few tomatoes to go in, but as I'm doing it, I'm going to talk to you about some other things as well, so stick around. Most of it's tomato based. I've got a confession to make, and I'll tell you that as we crack on with this. So these guys have had a pretty good drink, so we'll turn that off. We'll pop that over there for now. Now I've got two types of tomato. I've got indeterminate ones, which are the ones that grow like crazy, like unruly teenagers, as I've mentioned in the past. And I've got a bush variety which are determinates, which don't go crazy. Now, to my left, your right is facing east. Obviously that's west-ish. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm using, you've probably seen in some other videos, I've got a lot of poppies growing to my either side of me here, and I'm using that as a bit of a windbreak. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant the ones that grow crazy, the indeterminate ones, on this side, because they are naturally going to be taller, as the name suggests, than the bush varieties, the determinate ones. They go nuts. So what I'm doing is, first of all, is I'm popping in some bamboo canes. Now here's the first thing. It's so hard for me to find bamboo canes here in southern Hungary. I don't know why. So that's one of the reasons why we've got that bamboo bush in the front area. So I've got one, two, you know what, doesn't look quite right spacing wise. Stick another one in, doesn't matter. There you go. Now I'm not actually going to be, I'll crawl across to here, pop him in there. I'm stretching, therefore I'm straining anyway. So I get these guys in. I'm going to give these a bit more extra space because they bush out rather than grow up. So I get these in. I think I'll put about 3 or 4 in here, like so. So remember, it's a no-dig bed, so it's easy to push these canes in. Now I know a lot of people use the method of string, and I will be tying, put these over there, 1, 2, 3, 4, go with the different sizes I've got, 6. These are all recycled. I'm just getting a rough idea of where they're going. It doesn't have to be an exact thing. Now I'm lucky here that I'm able, seems a bit hard to go in there for some reason, to grow my tomatoes outside. I don't know why that's a bit hard, so there you go, that's better. Yeah, I'm able to grow my tomatoes outside, and we've been quite successful with them over the last 3 or 4 years. The year before last, I think we got about 60 odd kilos of tomatoes. I'm pulling out any weeds that I see as I go along. There aren't many. Last year we didn't grow as many, but then we didn't have as many plants, and the weather wasn't exactly on our side because it was so hot, it was ridiculous. Anyway, let's keep going. Need some more. Go across to this side. So, confessions. What confessions have I got for you today? Sounds like I'll give you loads. Well, basically, the confession is, I sowed these tomatoes back in January. There's a video on the channel that tells you how I did it. You're not going to want to watch it now, are you? Unless you're in the market or climate rather to start sowing your tomato seeds. But obviously here in our continental warm climate in the northern hemisphere, geography never was my strong point. You're not probably going to watch it, but anyhow. So I sowed them back in the January, and I sowed them along with a lot of other things as well. 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I spoke about a new way of me being able to keep a track of what I'd sown. Because one of the things I find as well is it's not easy to get labels for your seeds or your plants. So I thought, I know, I'll label them 1 to whatever and keep them on a spreadsheet. That's all well and good until I deleted the spreadsheet. So I've got no idea what variety of tomatoes these are. I just know they're determinate or indeterminate by the way they've grown. So I know I've got a lot of orange ones in here, and I'm hoping that I've got some money makers. But other than that, I don't really know what I've got. So it's a bit of a trial and error really, but the thing is, come on, it's going to be a tomato, isn't it? Anyhow, let's get these canes in. So a bit of a schoolboy error there really, my own fault. So I'm going back to the old-fashioned method of writing out my plant labels. How many times do you forget to label your plants? And how many times do you think, oh, that's all right, I'll remember what they are? You don't. You just never do remember. So, top tip, label them. As I've just told you, I've got a real mix of canes here. I've got some short ones, and obviously I've got some not so short ones, so I'm just cutting these down. I'm going to pop those in the last position. Okay, I've got the canes in. Now, the great thing about growing tomatoes, they're pretty easy to grow, to be honest. Once you've got your growing space ready. Now there's a couple of tricks. There's all kinds of theories out there about whether or not you should lay your tomatoes on the side, bury them halfway up or whatever, and some say that the hairs on the look at that root, you can see it's quite dry. Well, it's not had a lot of water today. Anyway, people say that you should bury it halfway down and all this kind of stuff, and that the hairs will produce roots. Well, I'm not so sure about that logic. The hairs are there to deter pests from climbing up the stem, but they will throw out roots from its stem. Just pop him in and firm him in. So they're there for a reason, obviously. Like all plants have something there for a reason. So I'm only going down about a hand's depth, and I'm just holding the pot upside down, giving him a squeeze. Out he pops, straight in. Firm him in, and that's it. Now, if you follow this kind of technique, it doesn't matter what size space you've got, you can grow them. So obviously I'm in this old tunnel, and I'm going to be getting quite a few tomato plants in, but if you haven't got this kind of space, it's not a problem. You can buy grow bags and use them and have them on your balcony if that's all you've got. Or if you haven't got a balcony, you've just got a concrete path, or you know, you can go on that, or you can stick them in pots, put them anywhere. Now, I've seen tomatoes growing in some really weird places. You know, you see people eating their cheese and tomato sandwich for lunch. They don't quite finish it all, and the dirty so-and-sos chuck their sandwich out of their car window and go off on their merry way. The seeds from the tomato that they didn't consume germinate. And in fact, the last couple of years or so, when I've been using our own compost here, tomato plants have suddenly started growing in the front garden, and for a bit of fun we've let them grow, and you know what, they did produce a harvest. All right, we're not talking huge amounts, but it did produce a harvest. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to keep cracking on with this because I've got quite a few to do, as you can see. So we'll come back to me when I've finished, and you can see how I've got on. Now, if you're anything like me, you probably watch a lot of YouTube videos. That's why you're watching this one. Now, what I've found with YouTube is that I get bombarded. I might watch a particular video about a particular subject, and then the next thing you know is the YouTube robot is firing all these videos at me from different creators that I'm really, really not interested in. And so what I do is, and you probably do the same, is I clear my watch history. Now, when I do that, everything gets wiped off and you start again. Well, that's great. The trouble with it is that I've forgotten who I want to watch on a regular basis. And the only way I can do that and keep up to date with what they're doing and keep me either informed or entertained is to hit their subscribe channel button. If you subscribe to the channel, more and more people get to see what we're up to here, and therefore it can be shared a lot easier. So, like I say, if you want to subscribe, then great, I really would appreciate it. And if you don't want to subscribe, but you do like any of the videos that you watch, giving us a thumbs up also helps. Thanks very much. Now let's get back to the video. Okay, so now I'm on the bush type. So I've dug my hole, pop him in, backfill, and there it goes. So like I say, whether you're looking to grow them like this in your greenhouse, in a grow bag, whatever you want, you can do it in any space. I saw somebody a few years back, he took an old can of catering tomatoes, because he had a catering business. No, it wasn't me. And drilled some holes in the bottom of it, varnished the label, popped a tomato plant in it, and grew his own tin of tomatoes. So it's a true story. It's not a dad joke. So, but the point is they will grow. If you give them the right conditions, they're going to crack on. And what I love about this is that being outside, I mean, it doesn't get much better, to be honest. But now there's another thing to think about. You know, I'm organic, and you also should know by now that we make our own compost here, and I follow the principles of no dig up to a point, because once you've made your beds, you can't keep not digging it. All you do is you chuck some more compost on at the beginning of the year or the end of the growing season, whenever it might be. But certain plants, tomatoes being one, squashes being the other, need some extra feed, because they are heavy feeders, these guys. And so you can do one of two things. You can either make your own liquid feeds, which I've done by using weeds, and you can use certain types of animal manures, or you can buy an organic feed, all-round feed. What you want to be thinking of is that these guys like a phosphorus and potassium rich feed. Don't give them nitrogen, because yeah, they'll grow like crazy, but you just end up with an awful lot of green leaves and not a lot of fruit. Now, you might have seen a video I did last year where I had a bit of a problem with the dog, as usual, because a great source of food for these kinds of plants is sheep manure. I think you're going to know what I'm going to say. So I had some raspberries, and I applied some dried pellets of sheep manure, and the dog absolutely loved it. You might have seen a video I did about that. So I worked out that the best thing I could do was to dissolve them in water, and then that way she couldn't go around digging up the plants just to get to the pellets. It seemed to work quite well. One thing I'd say about that is that the containers that I had, they did ferment. So when you took the lid off and the gas came out, whew, it did smell. So we're on the last stretch. Sounds like a race, doesn't it? You just make a hole, drop him in, and there we go. Now the other thing about tomatoes is, have you noticed that they've got quite a strong smell to them? I actually quite like the smell, but that smell is a deterrent for pests, because they don't like it. Sounds like I'm Corporal Jones. They don't like it up them. It puts them off. So these guys have not only got the hairs on their stems, but they produce that smell. And also, have you seen that when you do handle your tomato plants, you get some green fingers and green thumbs? Well, that sticky substance is also there to deter the critters that might want to get up, kick the pots, get up your plants and attack them. So, like I say, they've got quite a good defense mechanism, these guys. So there they go. Now, you might have noticed that I've got quite a few left over, which is true, I have. So I can do one of two things with those. What I will do is that I will leave them here in this section, because they can get used to being out here now, because they've been in the greenhouse for a good few weeks. So they're all in. Next job is to give them another watering, because plants will sulk a little bit when you transplant them. You just grab the hose. Where is it? There it is. And what I always try and do is that I want to be watering the soil. I don't want to be watering the plant itself. And there's two reasons for that. But the main reason is it stops any fungal issues occurring. Now, some people say, oh, you shouldn't wash the soil because you're gonna disturb any spores that you might have in the soil, which will stick to the plants. Well, you know, if you've got healthy soil in the first place, that shouldn't be a problem. And to be honest with you, I always do it this way. Give this guy a tray of water while I'm here. I've always done it this way and I've never had an issue. Touch wood. Haven't got any wood. So I could touch the ground and say touch organic matter, I suppose. Now obviously you will get water on some of the leaves. Not much you can do about that really, especially if you're going outside and it rains. But generally speaking, I'm looking to soak this area. Now as you look at this ground, you can see that I've got quite a bit of space in the front of these toms. And that's because I'm going to be planting basil in here to go alongside them, because basil is a fantastic companion plant, as I've already mentioned in the past. So I've sown some basil in the greenhouse, ready to come in here in the next few days. So there we go, tomatoes are in. Now I'm going to leave them here for a couple of days or so, get them used to their new space. Like I say, they will sulk for a little bit, but you know, they'll get over it. And then what I'll do is I'll start tying them in gently to these canes, pop across to this side here, same with these guys here. And then when they get closer to the top of the canes, I can attach a piece of string to these supports here, and then they can come down onto the canes, and then the tomatoes can start climbing up the strings. One thing I will need to do is cut back that growth there. It's there purely as a defense mechanism at the minute. We're not in full summer yet, but in the next few days it is going to start to increase temperature wise. But I will get this cut back, because obviously I don't want the seeds from this stuff coming into here. Just to give you an example of how plants can sulk, these are the cucumbers. Now I grow these every year, and every year they're pretty successful, and I put them in yesterday, and as you can see, they're looking a little bit kind of sorry for themselves, but they will pick up quite quickly. Squashes for some reason do tend to put a bit of a mood on. I need to give this a drink, which I'll do in just a second. But these guys will climb up this fencing and hopefully give us a great harvest. Last year we just had so many of them. Now we grow them like a gherkin basically, because to me, I don't see the point in growing a huge long cucumber. You don't eat it all in one go, but the gherkin size are ideal. You only need one of those on your plate and you're laughing. And we do so much with this stuff. Here, the lady of the house makes a cucumber salad using these guys obviously, and sour cream. Pop it in the fridge for a couple of hours and I'll tell you what's really refreshing. Not only that, you can make a drink out of them, we can ferment them. I'm going to be doing all of that this summer. I hope you found that of interest, and if you did, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. But for now, take care and I'll catch you soon. I'm off now to see if those two swallows are still playing in my shed. Let's go and have a look.